You guys will never believe what happened. I'm Chloe, living in this charming, historic home in the lakeside town of Cresthaven, chasing my dream of becoming a painter who captures the soul of fleeting moments on canvas. Tonight, I was just playing some music in my living room when Julian, my neighbor, retired musician with salt and pepper hair, deep hazel eyes, and a voice that could strum a heartstring, stopped by to drop. One thing led to another, and he offered to teach me a few dance steps. What started as a simple lesson turned into something way deeper, something neither of us could step back from. Want to know how it went down? Keep watching, because this story is all about one night that moves to a rhythm hotter than the music. Like and subscribe for more. The evening was crisp in Cresthaven, the air alive with the hum of crickets and the soft lapping of the lake, its scent of damp earth and water drifting through the open windows of Chloe's historic family home. The house, with its creaking oak floors, ivy-draped windows, and the faint musk of aged wood, was their sanctuary, nestled in a leafy suburban neighborhood where the lake's whispers fueled her restless creativity. Her paintings were bold, their strokes mirroring the dangerous desires that simmered beneath her poised exterior, always seeking a spark to ignite them into something alive. Tonight, those desires flared in her living room, sparked by a dance lesson from Julian, her neighbor, whose quiet charisma had become a melody she couldn't stop humming. At 62, Julian was a retired musician whose understated charm had intrigued Chloe since she returned to Cresthaven a year ago after art school. His salt and pepper hair was tousled from the evening breeze. His hazel eyes carried the depth of decades playing jazz in smoky clubs, and his hands, steady from years of strumming guitars, moved with a quiet, deliberate grace that felt like a perfectly timed note. His evening, Chloe, in passing, paired with a reserved smile, had always felt neighborly but distant, like a song heard through a wall. She'd told herself it was just appreciation for a neighbor who'd once played her a vinyl of Miles Davis, who'd admired her paintings during a backyard chat. But her dangerous desires, always lurking, stirred a curiosity she couldn't quiet. And tonight, those desires took the lead when a casual visit turned into a dance. Chloe had been winding down after a long day in her attic studio, her latest canvas, a swirl of midnight blues and starlit silver, still drying upstairs. She'd slipped into a flowy blouse and jeans, her hair loose, and was tinkering with a playlist when a knock came at the door. The living room was a cozy haven, its walls adorned with her vibrant sketches, a plush couch by a wide window overlooking the moonlit lake, and a coffee table cluttered with paintbrushes and a half-empty mug of tea. A record player spun a classic jazz tune, Billie Holiday, sultry and soulful, its notes weaving through the air, mingling with the scent of cedar from the fireplace and the faint tang of lake air. She opened the door to find Julian, holding a vinyl record she'd lent him, his flannel shirt open at the collar, his smile warm but slightly hesitant. "Thought I'd return this," he said, his voice a low hum, like a guitar string plucked gently, his hazel eyes catching hers in the porch light's glow. "Thanks," Chloe said, taking the record, her fingers brushing his, the contact sparking a flicker of warmth. On impulse, she gestured inside. "Want to come in for a bit? I'm just messing with some music." Her voice was light but daring, her dangerous desires nudging her forward as he nodded and stepped into the living room. They chatted about the record, Billie's voice filling the space. But when a slower song began, smooth, jazzy waltz, Chloe's eyes lit up. "You're a musician," she said, her voice teasing but bold. "You must know how to dance. Teach me something." Her hazel eyes glinted with challenge, the firelight casting golden flecks across her face. Julian laughed, a warm, low sound, setting the record on the coffee table. "All right, just a quick lesson," he said, his voice carrying a musician's easy rhythm. "A simple waltz. Follow my lead." He pushed the coffee table aside, the oak floor creaking softly, and offered his hand. Chloe took it, their fingers intertwining, the contact sending a spark through her like paint hitting a fresh canvas. He guided her into position, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. His touch firm but gentle, like a note held just right. The waltz began, their steps tentative at first, the lake's silver shimmer casting patterns across the room, Billy's voice a soft guide. Their conversation stayed light, her wobbly steps, his patient corrections, but the air felt charged, like a canvas waiting for its first stroke. Chloe's mind drifted to flashes of their past interactions, each a note in their quiet connection. She recalled their first meeting when Julian had waved from his porch, a guitar case at his side, his eyes lingering as he complimented her sketch of the lake. Another memory surfaced, summer evening when he'd invited her for coffee, sharing a story about a jazz club in New Orleans, his voice warm as she teased him about his vinyl obsession. Then there was the quiet moment when he'd admired her starlit canvas, his hand brushing hers as he pointed to a stroke. His voice soft. "You've got a musician's eye for rhythm, Chloe." A more recent evening flickered when she'd lingered at his gate, returning a borrowed record, his gaze holding hers as he said, "You make Cresthaven feel like a song." Each memory carried a spark she'd tried to dismiss, blaming his reserve on neighborly distance, but now, in his arms, the air hummed with possibility, like a melody waiting to soar. The dance grew smoother, their steps finding a rhythm, the waltz pulling them closer. Chloe's laughter softened, her focus on Julian's steady hands. The warmth of his palm on her waist, the sandalwood scent enveloping her. She stumbled slightly and he steadied her, their hands lingering together longer than the step required, neither pulling away. The firelight danced across his face, his hazel eyes locking on hers. A flicker of surprise and something deeper breaking through his calm demeanor. "You're getting the hang of it," he said, his voice low, strained, like a musician sensing a shift in tempo. "But maybe we should stop. This is getting—" He trailed off, his hands still on hers, the air heavy with unspoken possibility. Chloe's heart raced, her smile bold but soft, her fingers tightening around his. "Why stop?" she said, her voice a mix of teasing and truth, her hazel eyes unwavering. "It feels right, doesn't it?" Her dangerous desires took the lead, the living room shrinking to just them. The Billie Holiday melody, a soft heartbeat, the lake's hum, a quiet backdrop. Their conversation deepened, the waltz paused, but their hands still joined. The fire's crackle, a soft rhythm as the clock ticked past 10 p.m. Chloe opened up more than she'd planned, the intimacy of the moment loosening her guard. She spoke of her painting, how it felt like capturing a moment's soul before it slipped away. "It's like I'm trying to hold on to something fleeting," she said, her voice soft but fervent, her fingers brushing his, the contact grounding her like a brush on canvas. "I want my art to make people feel alive, like a song you can't forget." Does that sound too ambitious? Her eyes searched his, seeking the man behind the gentle smiles, her dangerous desires urging her to push beyond the lesson. Julian nodded, his hand still on her waist, close enough that she could feel its warmth, a quiet strength like a perfectly played chord. "Not too ambitious," he said, his voice low, resonant, like a musician strumming a private tune. "Your paintings have that spark, Chloe. I saw it in that starlit piece you showed me, alive like a melody that lingers. It's captivating." His words were measured, but a new weight lingered in them, a hesitation that made her pulse quicken, her curiosity flaring like a note hitting its mark. She tilted her head, the oak floor creaking softly, the scent of tea mingling with the cedar from the fireplace and the sandalwood of his cologne. "Captivating?" she teased, her voice playful but edged with daring, her hazel eyes locking on his, their hazel depths reflecting the firelight like a vinyl's gleam. "That's a big word for the neighbor who just paints in her attic." You sure you're not just being kind because I'm a clumsier dancer? Her dangerous desires pushed her forward, the living room narrowing to just their shared space, the jazz melody a soft pulse, the lake's shimmer a quiet witness. He chuckled, his hand lingering in hers, his eyes holding hers a moment longer than usual, a flicker of something unguarded in his gaze. "I'm not that kind," he said, his voice warm but tinged with a quiet intensity, like a musician revealing a hidden riff. "You're not just the neighbor, Chloe. You got this. Fire in your art, in the way you move. You ask for a dance lesson, but it's more than that." The Billie Holiday notes swelled softly, curling around them like a gentle rhythm, the air heavy with the scent of sandalwood and the weight of their moment, the firelight casting golden flecks across the room. Chloe's mind raced, weaving through more memories that deepened their connection. She remembered a spring evening when Julian had stopped by to share a jazz record, lingering to discuss her latest sketch, his voice warm as he said, "You see beauty like a musician sees sound." Another moment flickered, a fall afternoon when he'd helped her hang a canvas in the garden, his hand brushing hers, his smile brief, but carrying a warmth that lingered in her chest. There was the time he'd paused at her door, admiring her painting of the lake at dusk, his voice soft as he said, "Your work stays with me, Chloe." And a quiet moment last week when he'd leaned over the fence, his eyes catching hers as he said, "You make Cresthaven feel like a melody." Each memory was a note, tightening the rhythm between them, pulling her closer to the edge of something bold, her heart pounding with the possibility that his reserve was hiding a deeper song. The conversation stretched on, their hands still joined, the firelight a soft rhythm as the clock ticked past 11 p.m., the lake's hum a quiet pulse in the background. Chloe shared more than she'd intended, her dangerous desires loosening her tongue. She spoke of her fears that her paintings might go unnoticed, her dream to create art that lingered like a song in someone's heart. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm chasing something impossible," she admitted, her voice softer now, her fingers brushing his, the contact grounding her like a finished stroke. "But when I paint, it's like I'm alive in a way I can't explain. Do you ever feel that way about music?" Her eyes searched his, her heart seeking not just connection, but a glimpse of the man beneath the musician, the lake's hum echoing her pulse. Julian leaned closer, his hand still on her waist, the contact sending a spark through her, like a note hitting the perfect pitch. "Every time I play something that feels true," he said, his voice low, resonant like a musician sharing a private chord. "Your starlit painting did that, Chloe. It's not just art you poured onto the canvas. That kind of fire is rare." His words carried a new intensity, a crack in his reserved facade, and the air between them shifted, the firelight amplifying the moment, her plan gaining momentum like a song finding its crescendo. "Hey guys," Chloe said, her voice bright but laced with mischief, as if speaking to her imaginary audience, her eyes glinting as she leaned back, breaking the tension for a moment. "We're about to get into this spicy portion of the story, so please don't forget to like and subscribe." She grinned, the words a playful nod to her daring, but her heart pounded as she stepped closer, their hands still joined, the contact sending a spark through her like paint hitting a blank canvas. "You didn't let go," she said softly, her voice charged with truth, her hazel eyes unwavering. "Our hands, they're still together. Why does it feel like we're not just dancing anymore, Julian?" The moment held, the silence electric, the Billie Holiday record, a distant hum as the living room narrowed to just them, the oak floor, the firelight, the lake's silver shimmer casting shadows like a spotlight. Her heartbeat quickened, her breath steady but charged, her dangerous desires taking the lead like a bold stroke across a canvas. She'd ask for a dance lesson, but now, with their hands intertwined, her plan was unfolding, the air alive with possibility, the firelights crackle a rhythm to their unspoken dance. Julian's gaze softened, a slow smile tugging at his lips, his voice low, strained but warm, like a note finding its perfect pitch. "We're not just dancing, Chloe," he said, his eyes flickering to their joined hands, then back to hers. A spark of something unguarded breaking through his reserved demeanor. "You've got this way of pulling people in, making them feel the rhythm of your world. I've been trying to keep things simple to stay the neighbor, but you're making that impossible." Her smile widened, her heart soaring, the tension a living thing between them, pulsing like the firelight's glow. "Maybe I like making it impossible," she said, her voice teasing but honest. Stepping closer, her hand tightening in his, the contact electric, sending a shiver through her like paint spilling across a canvas. "Maybe I don't want you to stay just the neighbor anymore." Her eyes locked on his, the jazz notes swelling like a cue, her plan unfolding in the charged silence. He laughed, a low, warm sound, his hand still on her waist, the touch sparking a fire in her chest that felt like a painting coming to life. "Your trouble, Chloe," he said, his voice rich with amusement and intensity, his hazel eyes twinkling with a warmth she hadn't seen before, like a musician finding a new melody. "I've been trying to keep my distance, to keep things neighborly, but you hold my hand like that and I'm supposed to stay composed? You're rewriting every note I've got." Her breath caught, the living room shrinking further, the firelight framing them like a final act on a stage. Her sister's warning echoed faintly. "He's just being polite, Chloe. Don't read into it," but her sister was wrong. This was real, raw, and electric, a moment painted in bold strokes. "Maybe I like rewriting notes," she said, her hand pressing lightly against his, the touch grounding her like a canvas under a brush. "What do you want, Julian?" "Now that we're here, hands together, in my living room." He leaned back slightly, his smile slow, deliberate, his eyes tracing her face like he was hearing a new song. "I want to see where this melody goes," he said, his voice soft but weighted, like a musician unveiling a hidden tune. "You're bold, Chloe, bolder than I was ready for. You stand here with that spark in your paintings, in your movements, and you're turning my world upside down. I'm not sure I want to stop you." The air was thick with possibility, the jazz record fading to a soft pulse, the living room alive with their shared moment. The lakes hum a quiet rhythm in the background. Chloe's dangerous desires took the lead, her heart racing with the thrill of her plan coming to life. The intimacy of the living room amplifying every glance, every word. "You're making it really hard to keep this neighborly," she teased, her voice a mix of playfulness and truth. Her hazel eyes locked on his, her courage holding her steady like a brush in her hand. He chuckled, his fingers curling slightly around hers, the touch warm and electric, like a spark in a quiet studio. "Neighborly's overrated," he said, his voice low, rich, carrying the weight of their moment, the firelight casting a golden glow across his face. "What do you want, Chloe?" "Now that we're here, hands together, at midnight." Her heart pounded, the memory of his words echoing, the spark of his touch still warm on her skin. What did she want? The solitude of her studio, the quiet evening she'd planned, or this hymn, the thrill, the fire he ignited in her heart, as vivid as her paintings. "I want to keep this," she said, her voice steady now, her eyes locked on his, her hand pressing against his, the contact grounding her like a finished painting ready to be hung. "This feeling, this moment, you..." His smile widened, his eyes twinkling with warmth and intensity, like a musician seeing a melody come to life. "That's a bold choice," he said, his voice soft but charged, the jazz record's final notes fading into silence, leaving only the faint crackle of the fireplace and the lake's gentle hum. "But I've always been a fan of bold." The living room was still, the firelight a golden glow, reflecting their moment like a perfectly framed painting. Julian's hand lingered in hers, the air alive with possibility. The record and tea mug on the table forgotten like props left on a stage. The lake outside shimmered, its silver light a quiet witness to their connection. "Good night, Chloe," he said, his voice soft but heavy with meaning, his eyes holding hers as he stepped back, offering her a way out, but leaving the door wide open, the firelight casting long shadows behind him. "Good night, Julian," she said, her voice a mix of teasing and truth, her heart pounding as she let go of his hand, the spark between them brighter than the firelight's glow. She walked him to the door, Cresthaven's rhythm soothing, the lake's hum a soft applause in the night. As she leaned against her doorframe, her heart ablaze with the thrill of what might come next, she knew her dangerous desires had taken the lead, turning a simple dance lesson into a spark, leaving only a daring new chapter, one fearless stroke at a time. Chloe leans against the doorframe, the camera capturing the soft glow of the porch light and the distant shimmer of the lake. She smiles, her eyes bright with a mix of mischief and warmth. And that's how a dance lesson turned into something neither of us could step back from. Cresthaven's got a way of making moments like this feel like art, doesn't it? If you love this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more Chloe's Dangerous Desires. What's next for me and Julian? Stick around to find out. See you in the next one.